Good Tuesday afternoon. Thanks for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Chris Harabsky. New accusations this morning alleging GOP gubernatorial candidate Mike Lindell violated campaign laws. It comes just 1 week before Minnesotans head to the polls for the primaries. Lindell is accused of throwing out these free pillows during a 4th of July parade in Delano. A complaint says the pillows cost $35, which is above the limit for campaign giveaways here in Minnesota. In a statement, Lindell tells us that the complaint has the facts wrong, saying these pillows that were handed out cost just $4.90 a piece. He says his team, quote, dotted their I's and crossed their T's, end quote. And this afternoon, we're live in our nation's capital where senators just advanced Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche's nomination for the Attorney General to move on to the full Senate. Two Republican holdouts now promising to vote for him after he rescinded President Trump's anti-weaponization fund. The fund was supposed to be for people claiming the Justice Department victimized them, but critics worried that it would go to people involved in the January 6th Capitol riots and others that the president deemed as political victims. Those two Republicans who were holding up Todd Blanche's nomination admit President Trump could still use legal loopholes to revive his anti-weaponization fund later. Today, St. Paul residents are getting one last chance to weigh in on the city's plan for homeless encampments. Crews are expected to clear out the city's largest encampment tomorrow. The last public hearing a few weeks ago went on for 2 hours. Both in-person and written statements indicate this plan is not popular with people in St. Paul. The city wants to start here, which is Pig's Eye Park. There we go. This is Pig's Eye Park, and that is to start tomorrow. Clearing it means evicting more than 100 people who currently call it home. Mayor Kare says the goal is to address short-term needs while the city figures out more permanent solutions. Those against dispersing the unhoused people fear doing so could jeopardize the relationships outreach organizations have steadily built.
You know, where they're at right now, people can go there and help them get that trust, and then they can get the help that they need because so many systems have failed them. And so the trust is huge.
We also spoke to folks at one of the city's larger homeless shelters. They say they're preparing to take more people in tomorrow, but they only have about 25 open beds at any given time. So they're working on an overflow plan with extra cots. New today, a long-closed prison in western Minnesota is becoming an Immigration and Customs Enforcement detention center. ICE just signed a deal to use the Prairie Correctional Facility. It's in Appleton, Minnesota, for 5 years. Talks to reopen that prison as an ICE detention center got mixed reaction earlier this year. Some of the community wanted different alternatives to immigrant detention. Others supported reopening the prison for local economic gains. Developing right now, Todd Barnett says he is leaving his role as interim Minneapolis Community Safety Commissioner after this year. The city council has denied his reappointment twice. Some council members say they've been disappointed with his leadership. In an internal email obtained by KARE 11, Barnett said he hasn't decided what's next and is still committed to serving until a replacement is found. Cyber attacks on more than 30 Minnesota water systems didn't end with our borders. This weekend, we learned that we are one of at least 7 states hit by similar attacks. And while the president and our governor have argued about who's responsible, we wanted to know what's happening to prevent them from happening again. Here's Kent Erdahl.
Beneath Metro State's new main building,
we have this physical water rig. If I open up this one,
Professor Faisal Kaleem,
you can see inside,
gave us a crash course.
We have the PLCs over here
on a longtime cybersecurity threat that just bubbled to the surface.
This basically has one PLC.
These are the same type of PLCs, or programmable logic controllers, that impacted water systems in 7 states recently, including more than 30 Minnesota communities last week.
So that's the little computer that controls the pump.
Yes.
And that's what they hacked into.
That's what that was the one that they hacked into in our water attacks. and they were actually able to take it over.
Though federal and state agencies have spent the past week alerting water systems to the attacks, the EPA has been warning of a cybersecurity threat involving the same technology since finding alarming vulnerabilities in over 70% of the systems inspected, dating back to 2023.
Most of them are using default credentials, which also is a major issue because the default credentials, you search online right now, you will be able to find out what is a username and password for a particular PLC.
So essentially when they installed that, they never created their own
Most of
password.
the time that happens, and that's where the cyber hygiene training comes in.
Professor Kaleem says this pump setup allows Metro State to conduct that training through simulated attacks, but they can't do it fast enough right now.
The very reason why these attackers are successful, and especially when it comes to the municipalities, because they're underserved. And why they're underserved? Not just from the resource perspective, but also from the human resource perspective. The last time I checked, nationwide, there are approximately 700,000 jobs available in cybersecurity, and just in Minnesota, there were approximately 7,000 jobs available. And what Metro State is trying to do is to fill those roles.
That's where the rest of this Minnesota Cyber Center comes in.
This site over here is what we call our Educational Security Operations Center. This is going to come online in 3 weeks.
While working toward graduation, students will soon provide real-world cybersecurity monitoring to the university right here.
This is going to be very, very important, not just for Metro State, but I would say for the entire Minnesota state system, which Metro State is part of.
And once that is up and running,
This is the next step, or the ultimate step for the K-12 schools, for the counties, for the cities.
this off-campus center will be filled next, hopefully helping fill a critical void at a pivotal time.
The communities are getting better protection while we are providing the training for our students.
Kent Erdahl reporting there. To be clear, once that student-run operations center opens, it won't be free, but it will make cybersecurity monitoring much more affordable and accessible. Professor Kaleem says they've already spoken to the city of St. Paul and Ramsey County, but he says the biggest benefit will be to help local governments and schools with much smaller budgets. Developing right now, a teenager's fighting for their life after falling 200 feet at an abandoned grain elevator in South Minneapolis. Police say it happened Monday night at the old checkerboard grain elevator. Investigators believe a group of teens were trespassing on the property when one of them fell into the building, landing on a platform. Fire crews were called in to the rescue the teen with a ladder truck. They're currently being treated at Hennepin Healthcare. Got new images into our newsroom this morning of the devastating tornado damage that hit the Fox cities over in Wisconsin. Take a look at your screen right now. So these are before and after satellite pictures of Menasha. Look at this here. This is Menasha, Wisconsin. It's right by Appleton, just south of Appleton, right at the north end of Lake Winnebago there, about a half an hour, 45 minutes south of Green Bay. Just over a week ago, an EF3 tornado tore through the city with winds upwards of 140 miles an hour. And you can see just how badly it destroyed certain neighborhoods, schools, and businesses, and that's just the view from above. Thankfully, though, get this, no deaths, no serious injuries have been reported. Right now, a man is in court for allegedly starting one of the most devastating wildfires this year, raging in Spokane, Washington. The sheriff's office says deputies arrested the man for first-degree arson. Investigators believe that he sparked the Old Trails fire, which has burned more than 3,500 acres and hundreds of homes and businesses. There are 3 fires burning, forcing nearly 65,000 people out of their homes. No injuries or deaths have been confirmed, but the sheriff's office says 14 people are unaccounted for. And 3 weeks have passed since the BWCA had to close because of unprecedented fires in the Superior National Forest in northern Minnesota. But in the days since, the work 24/7 has been to contain and reopen that area safely. Today, more entry points into the Boundary Waters are opening to visitors, but while the firefighters are keeping most of the flames at bay, a recent uptick in fire activity shows the fight is far from over. Here's Gordon Severson.
Though the worst is likely behind them, nearly 1,000 firefighters are still putting out flames in northern Minnesota.
Things are looking pretty good.
Public Information Officer Paul Mesnerich says 2 of the biggest wildfires are now more than 90% contained. With the edges mostly under control, firefighters are now moving deeper into the wilderness to put out smaller fires that could spread if left unchecked. Around 400 firefighters received special training on how to travel by canoe.
What made this fire so unique is that aspect of the boundary waters and having to, get to the fire line by unconventional methods.
Mesnerich says most evacuation orders have been lifted and fire lines are now in place to protect homes and property. But they are concerned about countless fires that are lurking under the forest floor. The problem is that in the woods, the ground, it doesn't look like this. It's not bright green grass. It's up to 2 feet of decaying leaves, branches, and pine needles. Fire officials call this duff. And the fires that are burning underneath this stuff, they can smolder for weeks, if not months. And with the right conditions, they can grow and spread.
It's just an incredibly challenging environment.
Drew Stroberg with the Superior National Forest says some areas are safe, which is why this Wednesday they are moving into Phase 5 of their reopening of the boundary waters. That's when nearly 70% of the entry points will be back open. And Stroberg says fire projections suggest those entry points will likely stay open for the rest of the season. The remaining 30%, however, will not be open until next year.
And that's mostly because we had campsites in there that were just totally burned up.
Stroberg says they have strict quotas that will make it difficult for campers in those entry points to find another spot to get into the boundary waters. So he is encouraging anyone who has a reservation they don't plan to use to please cancel so they can get in as many canoeing groups as possible with the few remaining weeks they have left.
The economy up here is taking a huge hit. July and August is when most of these businesses, we make 90+% of their income. Again, the areas that are open, they're open. We want people to come up and enjoy the boundary waters.
Gordon Severson, Kare 11 News.
Stick with us. We got more news and more weather coming up after the break.